Meanwhile, the Albanese government's economic policies continue to fall to bits. Inflation is rising again, and the International Money Fund this week singled out Australia for facing drawn-out and persistent inflation for a while yet. The Federal Treasury now says the government's plan to build 1.2 million homes in 5 years is going to fall short, big surprise, and cost $3.8 billion more than estimated. But the government's craziest, the most expensive plan to run the economy on wind and solar power is sliding deeper into chaos. This week's sign of trouble? The giant Eraring coal-fired power station in New South Wales that was meant to shut last year has had to be extended yet again, this time to 2029, because of the wind and solar power that was meant to replace it cannot guarantee secure and stable power. And New South Wales faced blackouts if Eraring went offline. The problem is there, what we saw in Spain, of course, with the whole country blacked out. A power system needs what's called inertia that you can get from giant wheels, as it were, spinning steadily through any blips. You get that with coal-fired, gas-fired stations. You don't get that with wind and solar generation, where, with the power varies with every breath of wind or passing cloud. Joining me as Bolt Report regular commentator, Barnaby Joyce, the former Nationals leader and Deputy Prime Minister, now a One Nation MP. Barnaby, what a cock-up.
It is a fiasco, total fiasco, Andrew. And what you say is so completely correct. Physics is winning this argument. Ladies and gentlemen, physics is the reason Eraring is still open, because physics says that you cannot supply a power grid with intermittent power, not renewables, intermittent power of wind and solar. Unless you have massive hydroelectric schemes and you can open a gate and get the turbines to turn, you have no so-called renewables. You have intermittent power. And because it doesn't work, they get Eraring to keep going. And guess how Eraring keeps going? Because you sponsor it. You have to send them hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. And that's all right, because you're already sending hundreds of billions of dollars to the intermittent power sector of the overseas billionaires, overseas companies, domestic billionaires, because you're a mug. You're a mug. And every time a mug turns up, you rip them off. And you're the mug.
Yeah, well, that's what people don't reckon. It's not just the soaring power bills. We're actually paying a lot for the subsidies now of all the power that we're getting. Barnaby, there were two 100%. Extraordinary polls yesterday which showed support for One Nation soaring since you joined it. There was the Resolve poll that had One Nation support at 18%. The News poll had it at 22%, more than even for the coalition. And there are now reports, Barnaby, that other Nationals MPs may also move to One Nation. Nationals MP Colin Boyce has been talking to you. Is he going to join you?
Well, I'd leave that completely up to Colin. But I must say there's some schadenfreude in the fact that before in the last election they were locking me up because I was politically unpalatable. Now it's an existential threat because One Nation's polling is actually beyond the coalition's polling. So I get a little bit of glee out of that. But we move on, and we move on for our nation. And Colin will do what Colin wants to do, and I would never for 1 second pressure him in either way. It's a very personal decision. It's something I deliberated over for a year before I made it. But I'm very comfortable in my skin, especially in light of the circumstances of such things as today, where the hate speech laws. How do we end up with that form of censorship? Hate speech laws. Mm-hmm. Have you had a read of it? You'll get shut down, Andrew. You're gone. And I feel I'm on the right side of the ledger that is voting against this garbage. The idea that the ACT in that legislation I saw today could deem that you were hate speech, and therefore an association with you, Andrew, could associate me with up to 15 years in jail. 15 years. Can you believe this garbage? How on earth did our nation get to this spot?
Yes, I can. I can believe it because
it's just bizarre.
I know very well how these laws twist in the hand. What you thought you were passing a law to abolish turns out to be used against you. I mean, you should see the kittens we have to go through. I couldn't theoretically, speaking purely theoretically, I could not say on this station that Islam is the problem, right? Even if I believed it, I could not say it. I have to say, and everyone says radical Islam. Yeah, well, the thing is, because then you'd be locked up. But meanwhile, you've got these hate preachers out there ranting and raving.
And you've got radical Islamists, and that's what they were, at Bondi in a human turkey shoot, murdering Australian people, and we're not allowed to absolutely say they are radical Islamists. They're Islamic fundamentalists. They're not radical Anglicans. They're not radical Catholics. They're not radical Buddhists. They're not radical Zoroastrians. We're not, but, you know, this is all about switching that off, so you can't tell the truth. And today I sat in the chamber with seven of us voting against it. I mean, what on earth has happened, Andrew?
Look, I don't know. Armed police with, rifles, automatic weapons outside sporting events now. I mean, wow, I had no idea that multiculturalism would be this much fun, Barnaby. And we, you know, this, people say, well, I don't know what's happening to One Nation. And so you created One Nation with all, not you personally, Andrew, but this idea that, you know, multiculturalism, we'll all live happily, you know, we'll all, you know, kumbaya. No, there is one culture, an Australian culture. I don't care what, you're either a good Australian or a bad Australian. If you're a bad Australian, you can't live in Australia anymore. You can't come to an Australia if you're going to be a bad Australian. And, you know, and we have to play this still today, after this massacre, these riddles, where we had something else so particular we could have dealt with. Anti-Semitism, if you hate Jews, if you want to murder Jews, we're going to bring in laws to stop you. We could have been so succinct, but they couldn't help themselves. They said, oh, we've got to broaden it. We've got to broaden it a bit because it might be about Islamophobia or LGBTQI or, you know, all sorts of hate, you know, hate against, you know, Zoroastrians and hate against people who don't believe in climate change. People don't believe in climate change. What a terrible hate. But that'd be...
We have to deal with that bullshit.
Barnaby, you successfully distracted me. Just before you go, yes. Colin Boyce, is he the only Nationals MP that you know of that is considering moving to One Nation?
I honestly, I'm never going to out people, and I honestly don't know. They make those decisions. As I say to them, I was never pressured to join One Nation, not at all. Pauline never, ever pressured me. It was a deliberate decision I made, and I say to my colleagues who might discuss it with me, this is like a marriage, mate. It's not for me. You work it out for yourself, and whatever decision you make, I will support you in it.
You made you used the plural version twice there, so I presume there are more than one then. We shall see. A very interesting year ahead of us. Barnaby Joyce, thank you so much indeed for your time.